New York state lawmakers have passed a bill that legalizes medically assisted suicide for those who are terminally ill.
The bill has guardrails in place. For instance, the patient would have to be expected to die within 6 months and make a written request for a cocktail of prescription drugs that would kill them.
2 witnesses, who have to be people who would not inherit anything from the patient, would have to sign that request. Then both the attending and consulting physician would have to approve it. 11 other states, including DC, have similar laws on medically assisted suicide.
The New York State Catholic Conference says they oppose the bill and that it opens up a Pandora's box. A spokesman told the New York Times, quote, "It tells young people, who everyone knows are in the midst of an unprecedented mental health crisis, that life is disposable and that it's okay to end your life if you see no hope."
Democratic State Senator Brad Holliman-Segal defended the bill, saying it isn't about ending a person's life, but shortening their death. He continued, "This is about personal autonomy. This is about liberty. This is about exercising one's own freedom to control one's own body." So even though this is a macabre topic in a way, I've actually been looking forward to this discussion, because I think it's not really a partisan discussion as such, although we may end up having different perspectives on it. But I'm curious, what is your view of this?
Yeah, well, I'm Catholic, obviously,
yes.
So I agree
Scientific
with the Catholic
life.
Conference, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the broader concern outside of the New York bill, which has these guardrails in place for, there's a 6-month guess that they're going to die. I mean, we do know that those predictions are not always accurate, even in terminally ill cases, but there is a slippery slope concern here as well. Canada has recently moved to allow assisted suicide for people who are struggling with mental health issues, which I think is a very dark and depraved thing to do. The right thing to do to help those people is to make sure they get the mental health treatment, not to help them off themselves. And so I do worry that with the scourge of U.S. states adopting this measure for people who are terminally ill, that eventually the definition of who it's acceptable to provide assisted suicide to could expand to a very, very concerning and dark place.
Yeah, I see the sort of thin end of the wedge argument, and I am not Catholic or of any other religion, and my issue here is, the concern to me is something that the New York bill tries to address, which is the idea that people who could frankly benefit, particularly financially, from someone's death, could in some fashion try to expedite that death. And the idea of having, consulting physicians and so on and so forth, yes, that's okay as far as it goes, but as we know from the opioid epidemic and many other things, you can find crooked doctors as well as you can find crooked people in any other profession. So I don't necessarily think that is fail-safe. Where I think I just have a different view than you is, it seems to me that when people are terminally ill and potentially suffering, very bad effects of their illness, or just, wincing at the possibility of their own decline, and they decide that they wish that death to come faster. I am not persuaded that the state has a role really in telling them that they can't do that. I do take the point that there should be safeguards, but there was a study done in 2022 at a time when there were obviously fewer states that had this done, or had this right. Over 23 years, there were a bit more than 5,000 people who had availed of this. The median age was 74. By the by, it happened to be mostly highly educated and predominantly white people, perhaps because they had better access to medical care. Median age of 74, 69% were suffering from cancer, an additional 10% had neurological diseases of some kind. It seems to me that if there are safeguards, a citizen who is terminally ill should be allowed to expedite their own demise.
I suppose the question is not whether the state says they can't do it, but whether the state has to take an active role in assisting them, right? Because those are two functionally different things. If a doctor finds that this person meets all of the requirements, for example, if they have a moral objection to it, would they still be required to do it under the New York law, or would this person have to find a different doctor who's okay with doing assisted suicides? And again, on the terminal illness point, these diagnoses can often be wrong. I mean, I've seen people who were given 3 months to live, they have 3 years, right? And so you never really know. And so they're making this calculation based on a small amount of information on whether a life is worth living, based on someone's desire to end their life. It just seems very fraught with a lot of guesstimation and moral concerns, and I have obviously a lot of moral concern about it as well. And we do have really great hospice programs for people who are terminally ill to help alleviate their suffering in the final days of their life. Expediting the process to me seems like a really big step towards playing God. And are we going to start doing this for disabled people, for mentally ill people? Really, where does the line stop? Yeah. Is it like, would you say that the line has to be that someone's life is already going to end?
I think that it is a better safeguard to have than not to say that someone's life is that it has to be the case that someone's life is already going to end. On the point of guesstimates and people who way outlive the diagnosis, that's true. But the people who would, under this law, decide to end their lives know that that can be true, and there can be very unexpected recoveries or prolonged lives. I get back to one of the supporters of this bill was talking about it being about the alleviation of suffering. And yes, we do have good hospice programs, and the people who work there in those places are often, I think, heroic figures. But I'm just not comfortable with a terminally ill person saying, I feel that I do know how this is going to end. I don't like this. I want professional medical assistance to end this now. And the government being in the position of saying, no, sorry, if you want to end your life now, you'll have to, frankly, kill yourself in some more basic way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it sort of passes off that decision, though, to the medical professionals. I mean, I really also have concerns about what mental health impacts it will have on the people who are providing these services. Being in the business of killing people, even if they tell you that they want that to happen, I feel like it's going to eat away at people's souls. I really do.
What about, though, in the instances, I mean, do you see it the same way? Obviously, there are decisions made frequently about withdrawing life support and so on. I mean, that involves a medical opinion as to whether someone's recovery is possible in concert with the family. I mean, that's so well established now, I'm sure it's a difficult thing even for doctors to be involved in, but you wouldn't, I imagine, have the same level of concern about that as you do about this.
Correct, because I think there's a difference between actively ending a life and then taking away measures that are artificially keeping someone alive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's an interesting moral and ethical debate.
Definitely.
And another one coming up is Simone Biles bending the knee to Riley Gaines. Some think so. We will discuss that after this.